Unleashing the commercial space industry's potential, a bold new era of competition. In 1969, humanity achieved the incredible feat of landing people on the moon. Since then, the United States has become a hub for global space companies to launch rockets and satellites, thanks to its infrastructure and support for commercial space activities. This has brought prosperity to Americans through space research and development. But here's where it gets controversial. To maintain our lead, we must build on the actions taken during my first term to ensure that America, not our adversaries, pioneers new space-based industries, exploration capabilities, and cutting-edge defense systems. Efficiently launching, conducting missions in space, and re-entering US airspace is crucial for economic growth, national security, and achieving federal space objectives. The US aims to enhance its greatness in space by enabling a competitive launch marketplace and significantly increasing commercial space launch cadence and novel space activities by 2030. To achieve this, the federal government will streamline commercial license and permit approvals for US-based operators. The Secretary of Transportation will use all available authorities to eliminate or expedite environmental reviews and other obstacles to granting launch and re-entry licenses and permits. This includes determining which Department of Transportation functions are not subject to NEPA and establishing categorical exclusions for launch and re-entry licenses and permits within certain parameters. The Secretary of Transportation will also re-evaluate, amend, or rescind regulations in Part 450 of Title 14, Code of Federal Regulations, specifically addressing 1. Regulatory requirements that should be inapplicable for launch or re-entry vehicles with flight termination systems or automated flight safety systems. 2. Requirements that should be inapplicable or waived for hybrid launch or re-entry vehicles with valid FAA airworthiness certificates. 3. Expanding conditions demonstrating reliability for re-entry vehicles to protect against high-consequence events on re-entry. 4. Whether existing requirements are too attenuated to a vehicle's actual launch or re-entry to warrant retention in Part 450. Within 120 days, the Secretary of Transportation will report on actions taken pursuant to this section. Reforming regulatory barriers to next-generation spaceport infrastructure. The Secretary of Commerce will evaluate states' compliance under the Coastal Zone Management Act. The effect of non-compliance on spaceport infrastructure development, and whether state approvals under the Act should be revoked. The Secretary of Defense, Commerce, Transportation and NASA Administrator will notify the Department of Justice of any state or local limitations on spaceport development on federal lands that may be inconsistent with federal law. Within 180 days, the Secretary of Defense, Transportation and NASA Administrator will execute a Memorandum of Understanding aligning review processes for spaceport development across agencies. Eliminating duplicative processes while preserving required federal space exploration and national security space launch capacity. The Secretary of Defense, Interior, Transportation, and NASA Administrator will use all available authorities to expedite environmental and administrative reviews for spaceport infrastructure development authorizations, permits, approvals, real property leases, and other relevant activities. The Chair of the Council on Environmental Quality will coordinate with agencies on establishing new categorical exclusions under NEPA for actions related to spaceport development that normally do not have a significant effect on the human environment. The Secretary of Defense, Transportation, and NASA Administrator will consider submitting applications to the Endangered Species Committee for spaceport development projects. Given the significant national security imperatives inherent in commercial space advancement. Reforming novel space activity authorization. Within 150 days, the Secretary of Commerce will propose a process for individualized mission authorizations for activities covered by Article 6 of the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 but not clearly governed by existing regulatory frameworks. Aiming to expedite and streamline authorizations to enable American space competitiveness and superiority. The proposal must solicit and consider affected agencies' feedback, contain a definitive timeline for granting or denying authorizations, and include clear and consistent requirements for applicants. This section does not apply to human spaceflight. Reforming regulatory leadership and accountability. Within 60 days, the Secretary of Transportation will establish a position in the Office of the Secretary to advise on fostering innovation and deregulation in the commercial space transportation industry. The Secretary will also direct the FAA Administrator to appoint a senior executive non-career employee as the Associate Administrator for Commercial Space Transportation. Within 60 days. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head thereof, or the functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies or entities, its officers, employees or agents, or any other person. The costs for publication of this order shall be borne by the Department of Transportation. What do you think about these bold actions to unleash the potential of the commercial space industry? Do you agree with the focus on deregulation and streamlining processes? Share your thoughts in the comments below.